Saad, one of the most challenging relationships in business is running a business with a partner. And that's no lie. It's no joke. It's a really serious thing. But I would actually argue that the most challenging relationship to have in business is running a business with your spouse.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So today we're going to dive into how do you actually run your business with your spouse, with your significant other, and what are the things that you need to be aware of, and how do you work through that so that you are the most effective team together.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of BizMeds. We are neuroscience business coaches and your hosts of the show. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darius, and we're here to give you the minimum effective dose for your business. For those of you just joining us, don't know who we are, I'm Saad. I'm Darius, and this is Saad, and we help businesses scale. In fact, we scaled a business from $60 to $90 million in under 18 months, and that wasn't by working more hours or working harder. It was actually learning the principles of scaling your biology and developing a scaling playbook, which we offer freely. So, which leads us to today, which leads us to why do we do this? Why are we here? Why are we talking about this? And for those of you who've been around for a while, you know, one of the clients or the type of client that's most dear to us are married couples, right? If for some reason or the course of my coaching history, I've had the great privilege and I have the continued great privilege to work with a lot of couples, right? We work with a lot of great married couples. And so today we thought it would be a really important topic to dive into. Okay. You're running a business. You know, one thing is you run a business on your own.
Yeah.
You're in full control. You live and die by your own sword. You make your decisions. You know, you're the one that's causing things.
You can do what you feel comfortable with, and you can take the risk because you know then you're not really impacting anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, your company, yes, but yeah.
But you're not there answering to someone.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I said I opened up with the, you know, running a business alone is tough. Running a business with a partner is tough.
Yeah.
Right. We know that.
Yeah.
It presents its own set of challenges.
Yeah.
Now, running a business with a spouse, I would say, is even that much more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, you see a lot of is that if you're going back to like running it as a single person, whatever you interpret is a single perspective, and that perspective you deem to be the source of truth, right? When you have two different people who have completely different experiences throughout their lives, the perspectives are two different perspectives. Now you have two things you choose between, and you have one person who's got ego on the perspective they have, and then you got ego on the other side who's got a perspective they have.
Yeah.
Right? And navigating between the two perspectives, you're now you're challenged with like, how do you justify what the right approach needs to be for the business and how to communicate that effectively between each other.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll dive into what are the common challenges that we see, and we'll try to weave in, I guess, our own personal experiences, you know, right, running things together, but we'll also then relate to, I think, some really great examples. And we talk about Alex Hormozi, but we're going to talk about Alex and Layla.
Yeah.
Because I think in a lot of ways, you know, we've talked about this before, is that they've really nailed down a lot of things. Are they perfect? No. But they have if you look at them as a model for how to work as a couple running a very successful, complex business, they have a really great foundation, a really great framework for that. So
right.
I think that we can do that.
Yeah. Perfect.
So common challenges. Where do we want to start with them? There's a lot.
Yeah, it kind of touched on the different perspectives.
Yeah, that's a really good, I think the biggest thing, or one of the things that you have to come up against or face when you're moving from a, it's distracting, that light board.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't think anything's happening there. One of the things is you do have that different perspective. Right. So you nailed it. You said, when you're running your own, you have your own kind of vision, your own thing. And now you have two. You have two perspectives. And I would say that even beyond that, is there a alignment of vision. Do you actually, as a couple, have you ever sat down and sat through and really discussed what your visions are?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because every couple that we worked with, that we sit down, and the reason why we go through the process that we go through, one of that is, thinking about the future and
Mm-hmm.
outlining the future, is to get that clarity, because 9 times out of 10, that conversation has never happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's an uncomfortable conversation. What's the book you've talked about a few times, like
Crucial conversations.
conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So you have high stakes conversations. You have the high potential for a lot of emotion. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen, but these are important conversations. Like, these aren't conversations that you can not have. Like, you have to have them. And if you're stuck as a couple running a business, you probably don't have the skill really nailed down. And the more you focus on this skill,
Mm-hmm.
but I think like that's goes to the solution, or one of the helping parts of it.
Right.
The underlying, I would say, challenge is that you've never had the conversation. You've never actually sat down. And I will relate this to when my first marriage, and as a new parent and a new spouse, is I came into the relationship with a lot of expectation based on how I was raised. I came in with my own views and perspectives on marriage and parenting and that.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? So did the kid's mom. And I didn't appreciate that till years and years later. And, after divorce, all the things, is you get the benefit of hindsight and looking back. And I can see very clearly now that same premise holds true, that if you don't have a shared vision, if you don't have a shared alignment of where you want to go and how you want to do things, like, you both come into a thing with different expectations, different sets of rules. And if none of those are talked through, well, then you have a very high probability that you will have a lot of disagreement, a lot of misalignment, a lot of missed expectations, probably a lot of resentment that could boil in. All these things that will happen because you've never had, or you've never had the conversation for whatever reason. You didn't know, you don't know how to, all those things, right? That's how that usually plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to kind of layer in one of a topic we've talked about a few times, is like the learner and the growth mindset. Sorry, the fixed and the growth mindset.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you start layering in the learner mindset with your partner. Is like, I want to understand what from your perspective is not working. And I think that's where you have to have some of those I feel meetings. I feel you are not pulling your weight on this front, or I feel that I am doing this alone and I'm not getting your perspective or your input.
Right.
Right.
And see, I understand that part, and I think I would take it a step further.
Okay.
In my experience, like, that has a high probability of feeling like, if I come across that way, you, like, the other partner can be defensive because you're saying, well, I feel like you're not pulling your weight, right? Whereas the trick that I've learned and have exercised is, when this happens, the story I tell myself is this.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell it because this is my perspective and this is what's going on in my head. And I don't make it about that person, because this is what is experiencing for me. And and when I say, I feel like you're not pulling your weight, that is I feel I'm expressing myself. I have a huge challenge in that I'm probably feels like I'm shooting a big arrow at them, right?
Yeah.
If I just slightly change my language a little bit, and I say, you know what, when this is happening, when these specific things are happening, this is the story I tell myself, right? And so what it does is it removes them from the equation and allows them to say, oh, okay, like, this is what's going on inside their head. This is how they're processing that. And it removes that emotional, like, trigger where it can devolve into an argument very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Just to help move that, to have that experience. But there's an interesting thing. You talked about growth and fixed mindset. Well, and you alluded to it even earlier when you talked about the ego.
Yeah.
Right? You can't have those conversations unless you're willing to admit, like, you have to be able to subvert your ego and be like, okay, I have to be able to be comfortable knowing that I'm not right in all situations. And you have to be able to subvert the ego to be like, okay, like what am I really ultimately trying to get out of this? Am I looking to be right, or am I looking to grow this relationship and grow a strong partnership?
Yeah.
And that will tell you kind of where that conversation is going. And you have to be very, very objective with yourself in being able to do that.
Yeah. It reminds me of a time where like, it's hard when you are a business owner. Like if you're in charge of the ship, there's a lot riding on your shoulders, right?
Yes.
Like you have to, you constantly want to feel like you are in charge of every single decision that you make, because whatever you say is going to heavily impact the business, and the people underneath kind of trickles down, right? So I remember a time where, I had somebody significantly junior come in and start giving ideas on what we need to do. And I immediately had my barriers up. I'm like, I've been doing this so much longer than you. Like, what the hell do you mean you're going to come in here and tell me how to do certain things when you just graduated? And it didn't, it was hard because I had to drop, obviously, the ego to understand the perspective and then match that with my experience and see how we can actually solve this problem.
Yes.
And changing the mindset from like, hey, I have like 20 years on this guy, and he's going to give me like what experience, like no real life experience to implement into my situation. Yeah. And so like, when I had to drop the ego and shift towards like understanding how I can actually learn from this situation, one of the biggest problems a lot of business owners have is like the reactive. It's like, no, I gotta just like duct tape that immediately.
Yep.
Like instead of understanding what is causing the leakage or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And that plays out as married couples even more intensely.
Yeah.
Right. And you have you have a lot more at stake, because when a partnership is, you guys go home at the end of the night, right? You go to separate houses, do your thing, right? Cool. You have separate lives, and other things going on in your in your worlds. When you're married or you're together and your spouse, and whatever framework you have for that is, you go home and you're going home together. Yeah. And so guess what? The thing that was in the office is now staring at you, is staring between you at the dinner table and when you lay down at bed at night, and it's pervasive. It's all encompassing.
Yeah. It's so hard to like just shut that off, because it starts bleeding into your personal life then.
Right. Yeah. And so I would say that the biggest reason or the biggest cause for that is because you don't have an actual shared vision. Yeah. You've walked in assuming that you've gone into business together and like, oh yeah, and you've talked about, oh, we want to run this company, we want to do these things, but you've never actually sat down like, what does that actually mean for us? Yeah. Because I'll tell you, every time we do that, like, it has become a very eye-opening experience for the couples to like see how very different, like what, and unbundling what those things mean. Like when we say freedom, like, okay, hold on, what does that actually mean? Yeah. And what does that mean for you? And why are these important to you? And how do you find a shared vision in that? Yeah. And then now you suddenly are aligned. Then you come to the whole, it's the separation of powers and being able to, this is where I love Alex and Layla, we talk about this, is, when we're not on camera, is how well they work together. Yeah. Right? Like, you remember when I was actually spent time with Alex and Layla and their team and stuff like that. And Alex is super amazing in that he realized, he's like, guys, he says very openly, Layla does not give the credit for nearly the credit that she deserves for running the companies. Like she does the running. She does the actual running of the businesses. Yeah. And she's an amazing person that like understands leadership, understands how to develop the systems, the processes, and all those things, and actually the running of a business. Alex is kind of the big idea guy. Yeah. He's a sales guy. He's like, he'll generate everything on the front end, but like, that's what gets the attention. Mm-hmm.
Somebody has to like walk through the execution of it.
Right. Yeah. And when you look at what some of the framework or the model they have is, they're very good at giving each other credit and not and understanding that their success doesn't take away from the other, and giving them the proper credit that they each deserve.
Yeah.
Right. So they're very complementary to each other, and they have complementary skill sets. They're not, they understand how they can work together.
Yeah.
And that's a really critical thing for married couples, is understanding, like sometimes, right, the one spouse is going to be more of the leadership role and more of the, kind of taking on those responsibilities. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Talk about ego.
Yeah.
Like ego plays such a big part in this, right?
So Alex recently just posted, I know he posts a lot of business focused stuff.
Yeah.
So he recently posted one about the relationship where he was talking about how he and Layla had to kind of get to understand each other's like circadian rhythms and like just understanding what the person wants after a hard day of work. Because like we talked about just before, I know the previous topic, the previous comment about bleeding lives over into like business and personal. After work, he's like, I just need like an hour or two just to just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't want, it has nothing to do with you. I still love you. I just want time to myself to unwind.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about like how business life can like bleed into personal. The opposite is also true, because, imagine, one day you just leave your entire sink filled with dirty dishes, and your significant other's like, this MF just like left an entire nasty sink, and then you show up at work and you're like, hey, let's do a strategy. And all you can think about is like the dirty dishes, you left. So,
I laugh because I love these conversations, because it just reminds me so much stuff, right? I guess, I know we plan and we prepare for these episodes and things like that. And then as we get into it's like, oh yes, and
remembering, yeah.
Like, yes, the bleed over happens both ways.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing. And that's why it's become so complicated as a married couple, is because the bleed over, like how you are at work bleeds over to how you are at home and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. And those things. So that's why when we talk about these things, communication and developing your communication skills is so important. Like you have to have that shared vision, shared alignment that all stems from, can you kind of put your ego in check?
Mm-hmm.
What are you ultimately trying to do this for? Get a shared vision, and then understand you're probably not a great communicator.
Yeah.
As much as you think you are, you're probably not. You've never actually been taught how to communicate well. Mm-hmm. And what you think is communicating well is probably still not communicating really well, as is the case with all the clients. And even just as we experience life, we realize, I'll take an example from you and I, right? We had probably a patch where, I'll say this, I'll speak for me, where it was frustrating because I thought we were communicating really well about like when we would commit to filming. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, we agreed on this, but then there was a whole pile of other things that we weren't communicating to like give the additional context.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this
happened?
MF.
Yeah.
And then the and how you can spool things up in your mind and the story you'll tell yourself.
Yeah.
Because like all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it really stems through, we didn't just communicate really well. That's all. It's okay. How do we fix we now know that these other things happen. Yeah. What does this actually mean? Like, can we get better at giving I need to ask better questions. Okay, when you say this, like, do you have something scheduled later on that's going to potentially impact it? Instead of me just assuming, we now have a couple hours of uninterrupted time.
Exactly.
And vice versa, right? Yeah. And be like, okay, where can I give better information? Not just say, hey, we're going to do it this time, show up and whatever. Yeah. It's like, but I also have these other things, so I have a hard stop at this time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, so that when I say communication is so important, we think we communicate really well, but it's those instances where it's like we can learn to grow. And those are challenging times.
100%. It's tough because then you immediately feel like you need to be defensive about and try to justify why it is you do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it becomes combative in the sense that, every person wants to just leave victorious, like in the situation. They just want to feel like I won this because I was right, instead of taking the step back to understand. And I know you do a really good job at that. And I've seen you do that with clients as well, where they'll find a way to like kind of put you at blame and you'll just take a step back and you're like, let's understand actually what the problem is and where we lacked in the communication to get the message across. It reminds me of a story about one of the people we were kind of briefly working with. So they have a business together and they're working on a vision, but what the guy in the relationship he's got a bit of a passion to try to give back to the community,
which is very commendable.
Yeah,
like that's
right.
awesome.
And with his free time, he wants to just not make money on that, just find a way to give back and like help the community or coach younger people. No money coming in. The wife wants that free time to be further put into the business or use that to make more money somehow.
Right.
So there's obviously that misalignment where she's not understanding his passion. So they have a lot of arguments on that topic because she's like, well, you could be doing this with your free time to focus on the business and we could be like, eons ahead.
Yeah.
But for him, he needs that as a reminder as to why he's doing what he's doing, and just another way of like kind of recharging by shifting activities and making sure that what he's trying to work towards aligns with his internal compass.
Yeah. And I think there's probably a really great opportunity to have that shared vision conversation, really unpacking what that actually means and why these things are important. And there's probably an opportunity in there for them to better understand each other's real motivating factors and why these are important. And I think if they have that conversation, that will help them align better on what the actual best way for them as a couple to do that versus I'm going to go do this thing and, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that will never work in a relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And especially as a couple running a business together, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing we can say is you have to get your ego in check. You have to be willing to learn in this. You have to be willing to put yourself in the other person's, like take things from the other perspective and understand, give yourself the okay that you don't have to be right. It's not about being right. It's about truly understanding. And so for those of you who are looking for a resource, get the book, Crucial Conversations. We don't get anything for that, right? It's just one of the amazing tools that we use. It is literally the key to solving so many marital issues, communication issues with your partners, your children, all the things. So just go and get it and start learning the skill of communicating better.
Yeah.
I will say in all of that, it is such a challenging relationship to have, and as either party is, you're not going to change the other person. Like you can't just force this on someone. Yeah. You have to do what you can do. You control what you can control in the moment. Yeah. It's not about trying to change the other person. You have to be the example. You have to show up as the bigger person. And if that means you continually learn how to better communicate and you demonstrate that for that person, it will start to rub off on them. Yeah. It'll start to rub off on your team. It'll start to rub off on your children. We talk about bleed over. The reason why I love this game so much is that when you help people become better leaders, they become better spouses, they become better parents, they become better people overall, and the world becomes a better place because of the ripple effect. Yeah. Right? Like I'm not so angry. I'm more understanding. I'm more wanting to understand. I show up in better ways. And that rubs off on my partner. It rubs off on my children because they start seeing a difference in you as a parent. And suddenly, oh wow, mom, dad, don't freak out when I come and do this thing. And does it happen overnight? No. Do your team members start to see you not becoming Jekyll and Hyde anymore? Absolutely. It takes time though. And suddenly they now have a better reference for how they can implement that in their lives. And you have a ripple effect out and the world becomes a better place. Yeah. And this is why we do this.
Exactly.
All right. So that's where we're going to stop today, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are BizMeds, your neuroscience business coaches. I'm Darius.
My name's Saad.
And hopefully you got the minimum effective dose for your business today, especially as a married couple in the extremely challenging environment that can be, and the bleed over between work and life. So if you learned anything, you liked anything, we entertained you for at least a moment, hit that like, subscribe, share. Don't be a hoe, share the show, as Andy Frisella says. And to our moms, as always, Saad's mom, love you. Thank you. Mom, love you. Thank you. And to everyone that has taken their time out of their day to listen or watch us, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And if you haven't already subscribed to the masterclass below to save yourself 2 days a week and help reduce your cognitive load to spend time on the things that actually matter, better do that now. So remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We're going to see you in the next episode.